Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Hawg Talk podcast, live from the Sterling Soap and Roastery Studios, part of the Believe in Buzz Radio Networks, where you can hear us on 106.7 in Central Arkansas. All live shows are presented to you by Arkansas Brewing Company in downtown Ozark. I'm Porter Hayes, and alongside me, as always, is Adam Hall. We are also brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports this season, from MLB, golf, NBA, and NHL playoff stats. All the latest stats, news, and scores available to follow for your favorite teams. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet online where the game starts. Start with, pretty rough weekend, as you would say, for let's say Arkansas athletics as a whole. When you talk about the softball, baseball teams, tough one. Dave Van Horn even showed some of his frustrations afterwards about, just the questions about the pitching. And look, I'm going to kind of back him up a little bit. You already had the one seed in the West wrapped up, or the 2 seed overall wrapped up. I mean, yes, you want to close it out, but we're at that point to where, like he said, it's baseball time. It's go time. It's postseason play. And I think he answered it pretty well when he was like, look, I've already told y'all what I'm going to be doing. I already told y'all 4 or 5 times about this pitching rotation. Yes, you want to win every game. We've said that many, many times. But look, it's go time. Now it's time for the SEC tournament. Now it's time to really hone in. And yeah, there's been some struggles. We're not saying that there haven't been struggles in the pitching outside of Hagen Smith, who's been named the SEC Pitcher of the Year. But, now it's time to change everything up. 0-0, SEC tournament, regional. Hopefully they get, I don't know when they'll come out with a new top 8 seeds, but determine if they host a super if they advance out of the regional.
Watching it, there's the frustration that I think every fan had. Obviously you want to win every game. And Dave Van Horn even said that, we want to win. That wasn't the issue there, but, changing up the rotation. But, then you also have to look at the bats, hitting, looking at, third strikes. It was something that we've seen several times throughout the season, throughout the conference season, still seeing it here. You just didn't have the pitching support to help you in any way, shape, or form. So he did have some pretty open and visual frustration during the post game. It's one of those things that, like he said, they didn't win, but at the same time, they're looking ahead. And it's obviously you want to go into the SEC tournament and win what you can. But again, when you're in Arkansas's current situation, you don't have to go in and win everything. Just go out and have a good showing, get ready for the regionals.
Yeah, and look, there's a lot of pressure on these programs now, especially when you have the success. And we'll talk about, softball after the break, but it's you're the saving grace of the calendar year, I should say. You are the standard of when it comes to, all right, yeah, they say you're a track and field school with all the national championships, but out of the big 3, there's a lot of people who say you're a baseball school. And they draw a different crowd, and there's a different standard with now the baseball program than there is football and basketball. So I get both sides of the argument. Look, you are the standard when it comes to, all right, we got to get to Omaha. You are the standard of we should be hosting a super regional or a regional every single year with everything going on there. Now, sometimes it don't happen, and we know how tough it is to get to Omaha. We know how tough it is to even get out of a regional. If you get paired with the right teams, it's going to be tough. But, you still have to perform, and I think there's also the extremes. There's the ones that obviously have, said, okay, we need to move on with certain coaches, and then you do have the sunshine pumpers who think automatically everything's all right all the time, and I think it's an even middle of, look, there's times to criticize and wonder, like, all right, when's this team going to click? with all the facilities, with all this stuff and their top-notch recruiting, why are they not performing to the level that they need? Why does it seem like it's always one stellar pitcher, and then there's a bottoming out per se? I mean, the hitting, look at the hitting. It seems like, you'll have 3 or 4 guys hit over 300, and then I don't know. It's just like, even at a school like Arkansas and how well they are, it's either they need depth or something else is going on to where they just cannot ever seem to get things going and play consistent baseball on both sides.
Yeah, and it's tough. It's tough on us as fans. We get frustrated. But we, 100% should know that the coaches and the players take it 10 times worse than we do. None of these guys want to, be part of the cause that's, the cause of a loss that's potentially been a glaring issue for whatever amount of time. So, it's one of those things that's tough for them. It's tough for us. Hopefully, like we talk about, several teams, when they're going to get hot, if they're going to get hot, and you hope that comes up, pretty quickly with, the regionals coming out. I think they start on May 31st.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things you don't want to look too far ahead, but at the same time, the SEC tournament means more to some other teams than it does Arkansas at the moment. I know we'll know more. Okay, who do we have coming up? I forgot on the bracket.
Yeah,
I looked at it that night that we put it together, and so we'll have the winner of Alabama and South Carolina coming Wednesday. So it's something that they'll talk and practice and try to get through this, try to get people out of whatever head case they might be in at the moment, and maybe somebody else that we haven't talked much about that hasn't shown up. Maybe they're going to have that postseason run that you see time and time again from other places.
Yeah, and that's what you hope for. But it just seems like the last couple of years, it's been kind of lackluster, and you see it. You see this start, and then you see the finish. And we talked about that last week with that bottom heavy schedule, and I know it's hard when you're playing Kentucky and Texas A&M at the end of your schedule, but it's weird how you're in a sport where it's like you said, you want to win every game, but you know that you got to go into these tournaments healthy, and it's almost even like, if you're solidified, like if Dave Van Horn knows he's solidified, got a top 8 seed or top 5 seed, let's say. I mean, you just go out there to try to get some routine, because again, it is a very superstitious sport. I mean, let's be honest. There's a lot of superstitious players. There's a lot of superstitious coaches when how the routine goes. You were talking about the rain delay and how that could affect, the Hagen Smith's routine and pregame regimen. You do that even in the postseason. So you're wanting to go through the motion, but you want to keep everybody as healthy as possible. And right now, with the way things are going, you need that. You need full depth, but you need guys to start clicking. And it's almost like, where's that switch? We've seen it with so many programs at Arkansas. Where's that switch? Like when the football team was heading down that road, you're hoping for them to flip the switch, turn things around. All right, we know that, the season's heading the way it is, and we're wanting to turn things around. Basketball, the same way. You have all this talent. You have Coach Musselman. You're wanting to get in the tournament. You're saying you're ready to go. This is the last 2 weeks of the season. There's no flip of the switch. I know a lot of people's going to automatically go to NIL and the transfer portal and stuff like that, and then that's probably part of it. But for this team, this program, this goes for a lot of programs, not just baseball, basketball, and football. Where's this switch? You bring this talent in, and there's no, I don't know, we're missing something. We're missing it, and I don't know if it's just because we're saying the quiet thing out loud, but there's a lot of programs that could speak for of when it comes to, you want NIL, you want this money, you want this recognition. Where's the flip of the switch? Where's it at?
And, out of the coaches out there, we all know the most deserving is Dave Van Horn, point blank, period. But you just have to look at too, and that's, I'm not saying it's on the back of everybody's mind, back of his mind. I've thought about it a time or two, but it's not really anything that's overshadowed any other thoughts. But we're getting to a point that it's dwindling down in his career, time frame wise, and you're getting to that point where it's seemingly slipping further and further away, and you don't want that because we don't know what's going to happen after he leaves. We don't know who the replacement's going to be. And, you hope that everything is still in place with the recruiting pipelines and people. I mean, nothing's going to change the fact that if you look at, Arkansas has the most MLB players out of any college currently. And yes, that is because of Dave Van Horn, but it's also, Arkansas across the chest. When it comes to baseball, they come here because they want to go to the MLB. You just want there to be more than just that major league pipeline to come through. You want the national title to go with it. There's a lot of, back and forth over on X this last weekend on Ole Miss. And I mean, they're ready to throw Bianco out the door. The guy that won you a national title, y'all are ready to chunk him. But at the same time, it's, their fans want to come back to 2018 or come back to, we haven't won a national title in baseball. But they don't really get that. Yes, obviously winning the national title is everything, but the consistency also is nothing to balk at. And so when we come back with the 40-win seasons that we've had, the continuous postseason, the Omahas, the this, the that, it's just all they want to go on is, well, we've won a national title. And it's like, yeah, and you're now throwing your coach in the trash.
Well, and here's the deal, and this is kind of a devil's advocate, not to fully disagree with it, but bring the debate in the subject is, how long does that give you a pass? Because, and I want to bring Musselman into the conversation of, yes, he went to 3 Sweet 16s. Yes, he went to 2 Elite Eights, but you could clearly see he was cashed out, So he wants to go. What if like Bianco at Ole Miss? What if the love's gone? Like he's just, you can clearly see if he's cashed out. And I don't know. I'm not throwing any projections because we don't cover. I've not watched one Ole Miss game this season, but I'm just, for argument's sake, does that automatically give him a free pass? And even if he did win a national championship, if he's not performing to the level of what that standard is, maybe it is. Look at Cal. He said it was time to move on. It was time to, pass the torch and let somebody else come in. But the fans wanted him gone just as much as we wanted him. And we've said that. So it's hard to, now we're at a different level of the game. We're in a different level, players, coaches, buyouts, money, millions. We're in a different era. So yes, I understand, hey, look what this coach has done for us. But again, we'll dig into the, a lot of these, but we see that here at our school. How many coaches are underperforming and we give the pass because of what they've done in previous seasons? And I'm not calling for jobs. I'm just saying that expectation is set at a different standard now. So if that expectation's not set, you should be able to question on why it's not there anymore.
No, yeah. I know you mean with buyouts and things like that. I mean, that brings a whole new kink into it because, we've seen time and time again, teams are hampered by a potential buyout with the coach. Teams are, I'm not going to say necessarily penalized, but, it hurts their bottom line when they've got to pay, whatever buyout. And of course, I know baseball is probably a bit different when it comes to revenue because not many programs are in the green when it comes to that. But, it's one of those things that you can, when you're consistently repeating the same or similar outcomes year in and year out, I think it is healthy to finally start questioning, okay, when are we going to get over this hump? When are we going to move forward and not just stay consistent? Yeah, we can get to the postseason every year, but are we okay with that being our ceiling.
Yeah. And man, it's tough because I guess there's just a lot of frustration, like from my part of it, because it's like, all this stuff of we need this, we need that. And I think it had to do with just the whole this drive for five. And we talked about it on an episode of them wanting the common fan to pay for NIL and to pay for this. And it's going to cost this much money to put that together a basketball program. It's going to put this money to put a football program together. Baseball, well, this could really help out that. They're struggling because of the scholarship restrictions, that 11-7 thing. But you just look at the fact of Arkansas is able to get whoever they want and have the facilities and all the perks that comes to playing for Razorback baseball. And I guess a lot of it too is, there's a lot of weight on the shoulders of the baseball team to carry what's happened with the football program and the basketball program. So I guess they're the fall guy, but it's the last sport of the calendar year when it comes to the big three. So a lot of, if they're the last resort of hope and they're not performing to what they should, which is crazy to say because they just won the West Division, but you see the struggles, you see it happening. So I'm almost on the side, people want to say, well, you're complaining, look what they've done. Well, are they going to get beaten regional? Are they going to be able to get to Omaha? And you see the type of team they have, but the same fans, when they don't make it to Omaha, they're the first ones to flip the other side of the fence.
And I've wondered too, and we've talked about a little bit with the potential, roster changes in college football, and some of the, basically, I guess the things that could come from that. Not only are they talking about, dropping it from 120 down to 85, which will eliminate walk-ons, but something that they're looking at doing also is, scholarship disbursement across other sports by that money that they're saving. And so then I think, you got to look at a program or programs like baseball that only gets the 11.7 scholarships. So now we're going to add scholarships to baseball. Is that going to change baseball recruiting? Yeah. Whereas now, it's one of those things that players can come to Arkansas and know, hey, I've got a good chance of getting to the MLB. But now it's going to be one of those things that we're throwing in more scholarships, potentially more NIL money, that recruiting may open up elsewhere. But, we'll see. That's got to pass first. But, there's different things in the pipeline that could, what's going on in football could affect other sports.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know what other sport has those kind of restrictions on the scholarships. It's the one that's mainly brought up a lot is this 11-7. And for a team like Arkansas and having the restrictions that you do, yes, it does hinder a lot of things other than Vanderbilt, the private university that doesn't have to account for whatever the money goes to, or they don't have to report things. But yes, I think one, I'd made a comment about the whole, the scholarships. I think especially in the NIL era and the transfer portal, you have these preferred walk-ons or whatever, these walk-ons. And I think that we're not going to see it now, but you're seeing kind of these loopholes, and they're going to find any kind of loophole they can get to get players. Well, what if we don't put you on scholarship? But hey, we'll throw $500K at you. We'll pay for your school year, $40,000, and or give you say $550,000. You pay your way in school. So technically, you're not giving them a scholarship. You're just giving them money in their banking account to pay for the school. I mean, I could be way off base, as I said when I made the comment, but you have to think about, all right, if I'm thinking this as a host and a content creator, what are these business people thinking? What are these coaches and these? You have all these assistants, and I think one thing: do away with the 30 freaking coaches that you put on roster. That all these analysts. What is their point? Okay, you're paying somebody $60,000 a year or whatever. I don't know. I think 30 to 60.
I think it's around the 40, 45 range.
Yeah, to watch a quarterback room. All right, you have 10 of those on your roster. There's $450,000 that you're putting into, and to me, that's just as much as an advantage. Look at what it done for like teams like Alabama. You bring in all these coaches that have been D1 coaches. They failed at their school. Then they'll go to the Alabama School of Reform and you pay them $40,000. Then they go to another school and start making millions again. There's multiple things you could sit there and do to change the game. But I think the whole scholarship thing, I mean, it does suck for those kids who never, thought they would have the dream of suiting up for the Razorbacks or their favorite team and to be able to, and that could be taken away. But we're at that reality of we have to, as much as they say, protect the integrity of the game. This just eliminates that thing of, all right, we're really starting to crack down on this NIL stuff. We're going to put a cap on it. Well, what if they start using that? I mean, that's just a thought I had.
Oh yeah, you're not the only one that's thought that either. With the somebody coming on as a walk on and getting paid for like, oh, we'll pay your schooling and whatnot through NIL, because I've seen it out there through other. There's been jokes about some of other players that may decommit from this school, and then they're looking at this school, but that school's full. And it's just like, well, they'll just have him come on as a walk-on and he'll just get his money. I mean, and that's what we're looking at. I don't think that's too far-fetched to think that either. So then, then we just get into the NIL talk and the NIL regulations and how it's not regulated. I mean, because it's one of those things that you don't necessarily know how much somebody's actually getting or how they're getting it, because that information isn't readily available to everybody.
Yeah, and that's where that whole thing where they don't have to tell them if it's an NIL deal. I mean, they don't have to necessarily, unless they're going through the Edge program or collective bargain agreement, they don't have to tell them what it is, because I mean, you can go do something for a dealership or go on the radio. There's a set price for all those things, an asking price, but we'll wrap the segment up going back to baseball and the SEC making a ruling where they're going to try the double bag. I call it safety bag. And I think it's a very good idea. I think it's going to be a success because, one, of course, this is one of them true things where they're wanting to help the safety of the game. But I think also slowing things down with the, runners interference, or if there's you're punishing the runner for a bad throw by the fielder. And if it causes an interference, there's so many things that point to this being a good idea opposed to, I can't think of a reason why it's a bad idea. And like we talked about before we come on air, this isn't something that is going to just benefit one side. This is going to benefit both sides of the safety of the fielder. You could be able to really, really stretch out now, not have to worry about somebody stepping and, putting a spike in your tendon or the ankle tears, or again, the collisions that you see that a base runner's running full speed, bad throw, you go out and then there's a collision. Now your shoulders hurt, your wrist is hurt, or you're out for the season. Yeah,
when I first saw it, I mean, it was one of those things, just seeing like the initial headline, the picture, where you're just like, what are we doing? But after I actually like looked at the link, read the rules, I was just like, this makes sense. And then you just start to wonder why it hadn't been done all season, maybe in other conferences. But these tournaments and preseason and whatnot, I mean, that's what they use these conference tournaments for, is to test some rule changes that we'll see in the future.
Yeah. And with that, we'll go to break, take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about softball team ending their season with the regional, talk about their performance this season, and we'll come back after the break. Attention DIYers and home improvement enthusiasts. Are you searching for the right tools and the supplies to tackle your next project? Look no further than Mentor's Hardware Store. With locations in Ozark, Alma, and Clarksville, our vast selection of hardware and building materials is sure to have everything you need. Whether you're fixing a leaky faucet or building a new deck, most of our knowledgeable staff is always on hand to offer expert advice and guidance. And with our competitive prices and convenient online ordering, Mentor's Hardware Store is your one-stop shop for all your DIY needs. Visit us today and let's build something amazing together. Are you in need of legal representation? Look no further than the law offices of Robertson, Beasley, Shipley, and Robinson. As the oldest law firm in the River Valley, we have been serving our clients for over 100 years, with locations in Ozark, Fort Smith, and Spring. Our experienced team of attorneys provide expert guidance and advocacy in a wide range of legal areas, including personal injury, family law, criminal defense, and more. Trust in our history and experience to the results you deserve. Contact the law office of Robertson, Beasley, Shipley, and Robinson today at 479-782-8813. That's 479-782-8813. Are you looking for a place to grab a cold drink and some delicious food? Look no further than Arkansas Brewing Company. Located at 201 South 1st Street in beautiful downtown Ozark, our establishment offers a wide selection of craft beers and tasty eats. But what sets us apart is our welcoming atmosphere and friendly staff. At Arkansas Brewing Company, you'll always feel like part of the family. So visit Destiny and Christopher Brockett and staff today and see for yourself what makes us the go-to spot for locals and visitors alike. Arkansas Brewing Company, come for the drinks and stay for the friends. Searching for premium brewery products that will take your daily routine to the next level? Look no further than Sterling Soap Company. Our handmade soaps, aftershaves, and balms are made with only the finest ingredients that give you the ultimate grooming experience. With a variety of scents to choose from, there's something for everyone. Plus, our products are crafted in small batches to ensure the highest level of quality. So why wait? Visit www.sterlingsoap.com or visit our retail store at 16 West Walnut Street in Paris, Arkansas. Shop our collection and discover the difference for yourself. Upgrade your grooming routine with Sterling Soap Company. And welcome back to the Hawg Talk podcast. On our second segment is brought to you by Arkansas Tech University Ozark campus, dedicated to quality workforce education. Our roots run deep in a natural state. We have a proven history of providing programs that meet emerging needs of the state's industries and economy. You can expect us to support you as you work towards your desired credential or degree. With over 61 degrees and certificates to choose from, head over to the www.atu.edu/Ozark to book your appointment today. And as we alluded to, we talked about the baseball team, and another one that we have talked about, the softball team ended their season. Another, lackluster performance when we talk about postseason for the softball team, ending in fashion to Villanova yesterday or Saturday. It's just, you see all the firepower they had. You see, again, when we talk about the hype of the season, the hype of Brie Ellis, the hype of the transfers, the hype of, Gasso coming in, you knew that it was a gamble when, Deifel was wanting to go for that second pitcher, and I really wanted Kilfoyle from to come in that we ended up going to OSU. I really wanted Alana Vaughter that was at Stanford who went to South Carolina. There was a couple of options that could have really helped out this team when it comes to pitching standpoint. And, Robin Herring, having the injury coming back, I know, it's really plagued this program with that picture of not having a full rotation for a full season. We've seen it from the start of this era of Courtney Deifel, but you see that now 2 years in a row, 10 SEC losses in each last two seasons. It's one of those that if this was baseball, basketball, football, and we've even talked about it on the women's basketball side of it, it has to kind of, peak of what's going on with the program. You've seen so much success with this team. Now we're seeing a kind of a dip, and, again, like a program, the standard's different now. The standard is different from, you should be now expected to make the super regionals every year. You should now be expected to, we talked about earlier, in previous weeks, what if this is the year that they get to, Oklahoma City? So you have to start now. I know there was an article out today that was pointing out some of the people's wanting, Coach Deifel fired and stuff like that's ludicrous. It's stupid that people are doing that. But that's where that extreme when we're talking about the baseball. But you do have to start pointing out that you're bringing these people in. And we even see one departure that entered the transfer portal today. Probably has nothing to do with what's going on. It's rare to see, people leaving this program and it has to kind of be pointed out of what's going on. You expected so much from this team, and at your home field, not make it out of, and be the only national seed to not make it out of your regional.
Yeah, opening up social media and everything else, and just seeing that, like, the headlines being the first national seed knocked out, Arkansas. It's tough to see. I didn't watch the second game, or I caught what was going on, following along with the game updates and whatnot. But we're to a point that it's, how are you going to get over the hump? How are you going to progress? Having the 10 league losses the last 2 years, seeing us lose to Mizzou after sweeping them during the regular season. You just look at that. I know we've talked about this for the past several months, close to a year now. Texas and OU are coming into the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
In softball, that means a lot when you've got OU on the other side. And it's one of those things that's going to be that much more difficult in league play, which is then going to dictate where you're at come regionals time. And so it's really disheartening to see, because, like we talked about in football, it's one of those that's not so much, in my opinion, prevalent in basketball or even baseball. But them coming to the SEC, we needed to have good seasons and progress further than previously before these teams join.
Yeah.
You don't need any setbacks with these teams coming in. And I feel like that this is a bit of a setback. And we obviously saw, football was a setback. And now you've got two strong teams coming in. In football, you've got two, strong teams coming in softball.
Yeah, and you look at years 3 and 4 with Coach Deifel, and you're both. It's crazy. This is going to blow your mind. Other than let's take out the COVID year where you're 19-6 and 1-2 in the SEC. This is something that just really piqued me. All right, 18-19, 12-12. SEC. 21-22, 19-5. 23-24, 14-10. Those are the records for each one of those years. 24 and 23, you're both seasons 14 and 10. 21 and 22, you're both seasons, you're 19 and 5. And 18 and 19, you're both 12 and 12. Just the similarities in those back-to-back years, shows, again, you're building this program up. Now you're sliding back. And even in 18, they went 42 and 17 overall. The first 40-win season, of her career in her third year. You have the COVID year, and then you're trying to get out of that. But, you 22, 48 and 11, 19 and 5 in the SEC. But these last 2 years, again, like I said, you just having that pitching, that full pitching rotation, and having these kids come in, or having your batting lineup, clicking on all cylinders, you in overall play, this is just overall stats. You had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 batters hit over 300 in the season. SEC play, you had 1, 2, 3 of your regular starters. Riley Cloud hit 333, and she started 2 games and appeared in 11 and was 2 for 6. She had 6 at bats. So, if you want to count that, you I guess, give or take, but when you go at the regular players who played throughout the year, you see this drop off between, like, let's just throw Nia Carter out there, batted 307, but was batting 274 in SEC play. Kennedy Miller, 331, dropped down to 273. Even Hannah Kamenson, was hitting 308 overall and 143 in SEC play. So you see these numbers, and of course, again, the SEC is tough. It is tough, but look, it goes with the standard. And it's funny, being how we've been covering this side of the programs. There's a lot of people who want you to cover more, want you to do more, but it's got to be positive. If it's negative, you get those that just, no matter what, if it's the truth or not. And look, you run into it with all the programs, and we've seen it with the women's basketball side of things. And it's I guess you step back from it and you look at it really from an objective. When I first got into it, I really wanted to be that champion and really be that one that I was a fan and really wanted them to do well. And I still do. It's just now that I've really taken a step back from the viewpoint of where I am now compared to where I was last year with covering the teams and stuff. You look at things differently.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to call a spade. And I was one of those ones that wanted to try to put out every fire that was going out with all these things. And I'm not saying that there's fires in this softball program. I'm just saying that sometimes you have to point out that if you're wanting to raise the bar, you want to raise the program, you got to live up to those expectations and dip in. Look, this is not a 2-game difference. This is a 5-game difference over the last 2 years in SEC play. With Texas and Oklahoma coming into this program, you couldn't not bring it up and mention it, that's going on. And again, there's an article out, and I agree with the part of, let's not let the crazies, but we can't give them passes anymore. I'm sorry. You can't, if you want them to be the top of the SEC, you can't let them slide if they're 14-10 last 2 seasons in the SEC play. And same thing with the basketball program. You have all the All-Americans, you have all the team, and you see the players leaving, the coaches leaving. You have to call out what's going on, because again, you would do it if it was Eric Musselman, Sam Pittman, or Dave Van Horn, or Coach Cal, I should say.
Yeah, definitely. And that's one of those things that I think that it's okay to voice your opinion. It's okay to not be happy, be content with shortcomings. It's okay to call those things out.
Mm-hmm.
The issue becomes how you go about doing that.
Yep.
That's the whole 100% issue, in my opinion, with it. It's how do you portray your message, portray your irritations. Are you just not paying attention to what somebody else is saying and just lashing out, just starting an argument to start an argument? I know that there's those folks out there that don't want to hear the negative, that don't want, I get it. We don't want to be sitting here talking about that.
No.
But we are, because that's what's going on. And I think it's naive to think that everything should just be sunshine and rainbows, when that's not the truth, and that's not what's going on. You're allowed to talk about it, and that doesn't make any one person less of a fan than the other. So like I've said on the show before, calling out the people for not being true fans, if you will, that's played out. That's old. Stop doing it. Have a conversation. You're on social media, you're commenting on somebody's post, have that back and forth, have that civil exchange, get your viewpoints, get your opinions out there. Guess what? The majority of interactions back and forth on a post in the comments, you're probably not going to change many opinions. Agree to disagree and move on.
Yep.
But it is okay. You have every right, you have every entitlement to have your opinion, to be frustrated, and to voice that. And it's just a matter of your delivery on the response that you're going to get back.
And again, it's what we said, what we alluded to with that click. You start off, you end the season. You beat number 7 LSU at LSU, which you've had really, really good success with them over the past couple of years. Then you turn around, you drop the home finale against Ole Miss. 6-0 your first game, and you lost a close one 4-3 after winning the second game 12-2. You go to the SEC tournament, and again, I don't hold too much weight to this, but it adds to the broad picture. You go one and done in the SEC tournament. yes, you dropped to number 5 Missouri, the 5 seed in the tournament, Missouri, 3-1. But granted, there was a lot of weather stuff like that. But both teams are having to deal with those same issues. You know, it goes back what I was saying. Where's that click? You know, okay, yes, man, we dropped at Ole Miss. Yeah, we went one and done the SEC. Where's that click? You know, where is that fire where, all right, we're not letting these people come into Bogle Park and beat us. You barely get by at SEMO 3-2. You lose 2-1, close game to Arizona. And then it's just like 7-2, you lost to Villanova. You know, and then Arizona goes on and now they're playing Oklahoma State and in the Super. That is where I want to know, because it's not just the softball program. It's not just the women's basketball program. It's not just the football. It seems like there's just and I don't know if you want to even, you're talking about superstition. Is it just the university's cursed? They're just cursed from winning in Omaha, getting to Oklahoma City, getting to the Final Four, getting to an SEC championship game. Is the program cursed? But you have to start asking, where's that fire? Where is that will? You have the talent, you have the program, you have the coaching. Everything seems to be there, but the results are not. I think that's what's frustrating with the baseball program. The basketball program, we've seen what Muss has brought in, and with all these all-stars and these NBA players, you go 8-10 in the conference. You have all these All-Americans, you can't even make the NCAA tournament. You know, now this, you have all this firepower. You have the SEC Freshman of the Year, all SEC first teamer. You have Robin. You have Morgan Linestock coming in. You get put out in regionals. It's just there has to be more production out of all the programs, and you have to see it. And I think, again, we talk about regular season and postseason. You keep on doing this, and it's, again, from the standpoint of the fans, I'll see your 47-11, but when you get put out in regionals, it means nothing. Yes, it was a great year, but again, the standard. Now, football team goes out next year and has a 7-6 record. Yeah, barely over 500, but the standard from 4-8 to you go to 7-6, you see the difference there. Coach Cal comes in. We see his roster. And if it's star-studded 4 and 5 stars, look, that's Sweet 16 team. That's your expectations. That's where you have to, that's your barrier. That's your bar. Softball teams won SEC championships. That's your standard. You're supposed to be in the top of the SEC now. So it's warranted. It's credited. And I know there's going to be people who highly disagree with it. But sometimes you have to say, all right, is that just you being a fan because you're a ride or die to that program? Or you just want to disagree with it?
I think all around you just have to start raising the bar. Stop being content with where you've been. You've got to look at what is going to get us to the next step, whether it's that pitcher. I know you can't obviously add practice time because you get into NCAA regulations, but you just got to see what can you do from within to raise the bar. What hasn't been working and how do we fix it? What do we change? Whether it's your lineups, whether it's who you're recruiting, whether it's, your rhythm, your flow, how you go about your practices, just whatever the case may be, try something else. Yeah. What is going to get you to that next step? What is going to give you a competitive edge that's not going to get you in trouble? So it's just one of those that you wait around and the wait and see and it'll be different. It's just one of those things that it gets a little redundant repeating it year after year.
I think with the transfer portal and NIL, you're running into less and less of those 4-year starters, those 4-year players that I want to play for the program and truly play for the program. That leader. Let's look at women's basketball. Let's look at softball. Let's look at football, and let's look at the basketball team. The best ones, they had those guys, those in-state kids, and those people who wanted the will to win. Chelsea Dungy, Mason Jones, Isaiah Joe. You go to Gibson and Lenny Malkin. You see all those, Mary Half, Dels. You see all these people, the will to win, the will to put everything out on the line, and you have multiple players on those squads that do that,
Mm-hmm.
but but the respect of that badge of honor they have of playing at that school for those 4 years, that's that fire. That's that fire that I think some of these programs need, and they'll get more production.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, we know how it's going to be with transfer portal. It's mainly, I think, in your major sports.
Mhm.
I think that, and not necessarily baseball, because I think that you see more often than not in baseball since the portal, the guys that leave Arkansas are the guys that weren't getting much action,
Yeah.
that are going to go elsewhere. I think other way, but guys are willing to stay at Arkansas for that chance because they know what could be ahead of them when it comes to their future. We know that in basketball and football, it's an immediate, I need to play or I'm going somewhere else. So, we're not seeing those guys or those athletes that are going to be here 3-4 years. Unfortunately, that's just the fact of life right now. That's just the way it is. And, especially with a coach like Cal, he doesn't want your goals to be here for 4 years. He
Mhm.
wants you in the NBA within 2 years. And so that's one of those things we got to look at and accept. And there's nothing wrong with that because of what he puts out on the floor. And his goal is to get these guys to the NBA, to get them at the next level. So, it's, you have to have, I think you're going to have those players come in, like we've maybe overused the phrase, that have that dog in them,
Mhm.
that will to win, that are going to get the results. And, we just haven't seen it out of more than, a couple few players here and there.
Yeah, and it's one of the things, and it's like it's a gamble. I say that you want this or you want that. It's a gamble. Do you want all these 5 stars? You want all these stars to come in, form these super teams? That's all this talent. That's what you want. That's what we're seeing. Look, everybody's hyped over Cal's team. So we're willing to risk, and you have to be okay with that. Like, okay, I just got done saying that, you know, there's you just not this many players that have that dog in them, or that fire. Where's it clicking? Even if you had it, where's the clicking? Where's it resonating with your other players? And I'm not sitting here saying that none of these players don't care. It's just the fact that you have those leaders. You have those leaders on every team. And how does it resonate with everybody else? And if they're there just for the NIL, or they're there just to be at this school for a year, finish out their career, you have to be okay with the fact if you want all these stars, but you don't get the other.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you get both, that's awesome. That's a bonus. Or you want all these dogs that necessarily might not be as talented as the superstars or whatever, and you don't get the production. Well, that's what you kind of asked for. That's what you wanted. So it's a give or take. It is hard. It is very hard in this day and era of college sports to, yes, everybody has the right to do what they want, but there's also, you have to be okay with the consequences that come with that.
Yeah, it's one of those that I know as fans, we love to see the homegrown kid. We love to see the kid that's always wanted to be a Razorback, grew up in it. Once, those days that we had a team full of guys from the state that wanted to win for the state of Arkansas, that wanted to win for the university, that even though they may not be at that talent level as their opponent, they came out and smacked the other team in the mouth. And we're getting to, a day and age that it's, I need it now. How much are you going to pay me? And I'm going to be gone in 2 years. So, and I totally get it. But it's just like you said, the college landscape has changed, and as fans, we don't have to necessarily be happy with it, but it is what it is. We got to deal with it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. That's where you have these tough conversations. That's where you can agree to disagree. everybody, and that's what you got to, it's almost like you want disagreement. You want
Mhm.
the rebuttals. You want the debates, because guess what? Everybody has a difference of opinion. Everybody has that right, but you want to do it in a way. Let's have conversations about it. Let's talk about it. Let's not, just because you don't agree with what I'm saying, I'm automatically an idiot, or I don't know what I'm talking about. Or if you're on this side, then you're the idiot and you don't know what you're talking about. That's where there's no argument when it comes to, and I'm not meaning soft or anything. When it starts getting off if your path is this argument of this subject, the moment you veer off that path, there's no longer an argument. There's no longer a debate. It's just now you're going down a rabbit hole of,
Mhm.
now let's start making it personal, or let's go off of what about this? And then you start changing subjects. The moment you do that, you've lost the argument,
Mhm.
because you're not making the points anymore. You want conversation, you want constructive criticism, you want those civil conversations where if we don't agree on something, we can talk about it. That's where things get solved, opposed to, well, instead of talking about how bad this team is, well, what can make this team better? And that's where I want to come in at and be like, okay, what can make this team better? This team
Mhm.
has struggled hitting the off-speed pitch for years. What's going to make this team better at hitting an off-speed pitch? What's going to be better at really trying to stockpile our pitchers? That way, if we do have an injury, we have somebody to come in and take their spot.
Mhm.
What's going to make teams have this fire? What's going to make these teams click when it comes to crunch time? We know we're sitting at 500 in the SEC play. We know we need to be 2 games above SEC play to get to the NCAA tournament. What's going to cause that click? Whether it's coaching, players, assistants, trainers, what is going to cause this turnaround of these programs and get them to reach their goals? Because
Mhm.
look, if you achieve the goals, we're right there with you. If you go below your goals, we want to know what's happening. Why are we not meeting our goals, and what can we do to turn things around?
And then you have to ask yourself, in this day of NIL and asking your fans to donate the money, you have to be willing to accept those questions. And
Yep.
I feel like as fans that are putting up money, you need to be open to potentially answering those questions in some sort of capacity.
Yeah.
But, I don't think that's necessarily going to come to fruition. But I think it's something that needs to be, you know, thrown around, debated on a little bit. How much information are we going to put out there that aren't going to come from a paid for page or a paid for Discord or whatever the case may be? What are we going to do for the fans that are paying their money monthly to donate?
Yeah. I think that's going to add a lot of pressure on this basketball team. You've
Hmm.
got the Hall of Fame coach, you've got the Tyson Chicken Man, and you've got the star-studded players.
Hmm.
And look, I will say this bluntly, that is on them. Yeah, a lot of it, when it comes to the fans' expectations, it's on them, because all right, this is what y'all wanted. Let's see how this goes. But
Hmm.
it's more so on the players and the coaches that are getting the benefits of this. They're getting the millions of dollars to coach the team. They're getting 5 to 800,000 or whatever to play for this team. It's on them to perform, because you're the 5 stars, you're the high school All Americans, you're the ones going to the NBA next year, or 2 years.
Hmm.
There's a lot of pressure on their shoulders. But you know what? This is what Cal would want, because he's getting you prepared for. Do you want 19,000 fans hovering over you and doing this or that? They're getting ready, because guess what's going to happen to those New York medias? What's going to happen to those San Francisco medias, San Antonio medias, the NBA medias? You got people that are not just SIDs and kids that are going to college. You're beat writers. You're having these professional ESPN
Hmm.
people coming at you. You're getting paid $10 million a year to play this game. You're a lottery pick. It gets them ready for that scrutiny of, all right, you went 2 for 14 with 10 turnovers.
Hmm.
It's part of it.
Yeah. And I saw this, in the comments, and I wanted to bring it since we've
Yeah.
switched a little bit to basketball. So things that have been thrown out there on different platforms, whatever. No, DJ Wagner has not committed yet. I understand that 24/7 has, or one of the writers has taken off their crystal ball for Arkansas. I feel like that, and this is just my personal opinion, I feel like that's been done because it hasn't been officially announced yet that he has committed. Nothing's been put out there. The longer you wait, the longer you start coming up with other scenarios that may be going on out there. We talked about it last week. It's been out there on multiple outlets. You know, we know that Coach Cal is looking at a few international players. We talked about them last week. We don't know all the players that are going to be potentially coming in. We don't know if maybe something hasn't happened with Wagner because there's potentially something else coming in. We don't know if it's just paperwork or if it's transfers. It's an unknown question at this moment. Am I surprised that DJ Wagner hasn't committed yet? I am. I've heard the silent commits. I've heard it's a lot. But fact is he hasn't yet. He hasn't put pen to paper. So anything could happen between the time that he visited here and right now. I will say this. When it comes to getting a roster, I trust Coach Cal.
Mm-hmm.
June, like I've said multiple times on this show, June 1st, 2023, Coach Cal had 5 freshmen and 2 scholarship players on his roster. He had 7 players on his roster June 1st of 2023. It is not uncommon for him to not have a full roster or a set roster at this point. So I get that we're used to the Musselman days of having a full roster by this point in time. Hell, Coach Musselman has one. He has now officially, as of today, has a full roster at Southern Cal. Over, done, it's whatever. And guess what? The final spot was not DJ Wagner, like a lot of people have still alluded to. Yes, DJ Wagner's girlfriend plays basketball for USC. He's not going there. Their roster is full. I would just look at you're going to have the NBA Combine ended yesterday. You're going to have those guys coming out over the next 9-10 days, either withdrawing or staying in the draft. A lot more is going to happen over the next few days. I know we have a dead period coming up, but all that means is players cannot visit, but coaches can still call players. Things can still get done. But I don't think we're going to go into, I mean, obviously the summer's about here. I don't think that we are going to go into the summer with our roster set. And I think that we just need to understand that Cal has a process. This last weekend, he was out visiting 2025 recruits and watching them play in their travel tournaments. He's getting prepared for the future. Just trust what he's doing and understand that he operates differently than any coach that we have had.
Coach Cal is one of them that, look, I don't think he's going to play around. And I'm not saying this is what's going on in the Wagner situation, but we have to recognize this name is a high-profile name. He didn't light it up and score 25, 30 points. You know, but he's still a high-profile name. And we alluded to this a few weeks ago when we were talking about they hear about this bag. They want to see how big this bag is. If their version of a bag is not equivalent to what Cal's ready to pay them, he's probably like, look, I'm going to look elsewhere. You see the international. You know, that's a route that Arkansas is really not used to, is this international route. But look, goes back to that click, that fire. You get these kids come over internationally to play in this environment, this college basketball environment, these kids that never thought they'd even dream of playing for a college, much less go to the NBA. They get a chance to have a scholarship and play for Arkansas and go to the NBA. You're going to see it, and they're going to play hard for you. And it, because it's pride, they take a lot more pride in playing. But I don't know what the holdup is. It could be, again, we're not behind the scenes. We don't know. He could be very well and just looking to see his own after a certain point in time. But then again, he could be waiting to see, again, who pulls out after, you know, am I going to be the starting point guard or am I going to be off the bench? You don't know. Again,
you don't know.
It goes into play of how much playing time I'm going to get. If it's not suitable to where I'm going to be, then we're going to go and I'm going to shop elsewhere. I'm going to go elsewhere and look for another team.
And I think it's promising also to look at, in DJ Wagner's case, he hasn't taken any other visits to Arkansas. He's not accepting any more calls, any more visits. He's kind of done with that aspect of it. And I think that is in our favor. I mean, there were reports of him leaving here, and he was supposed to be visiting Florida. Didn't happen. It's one of those that I think that right now, because these international guys, they're still currently playing overseas. Nolan Traore, he's in the French playoffs. He's playing against guys that are, in the Euro League over there. So he's already playing against these European professionals. And if anybody does watch the NBA, what are we seeing now? These European guys that are coming over and winning 3 out of 4 MVPs. They're winning NBA championships. So, the game has progressed so much over there that, maybe Coach Cal is willing to sit and wait for 2 or 3 of these guys because of what he is seeing in the future. And if anybody knows how to get guys into the NBA and what the NBA players, what their needs are, it's him. But also I look at I think a lot of this too is going to be these guys that withdraw, whether it's Coleman Hawkins, whether it's JT Toppin, multiple of these guys, are they going to withdraw? Are they not? I think, Tyler Hero saying to Coach Cal, hey, these guys that I'm playing against in the NBA are 24, 23, 24, 25 years old. That's what you're still having of these guys, whether they're in the portal, going to the draft. They're guys at that age because of your COVID years still having it. You're allowed to play until you're 23, 24 years old. So Cal could be sitting and waiting because he knows, like, I'm going to have to get some veteran, older guys because we saw what his team did last year against older players.
Well, you touched on something. It's the fact that Cal's very smart. What if he's looking at this international angle of, like you alluded to, who's the face? The 2 guys are the face of the league right now, Luka and Jolit. What if people you see where they are coming straight over from overseas? What if I give you 2 years in my program and then you go elevate your game in the NBA? If this is where they're at, just think where you could be. And you start at that angle that I don't know if anybody's done. I don't know if anybody's recruited that. I'm sure there has. We just hadn't heard of it. But you look at what he's done with Big Z, brought him in. You bring in some of these other guys from France and some of these guys who, have played in some tough environments overseas. If you've watched any of these overseas basketball arenas, it is nuts. It's almost like you put 2 1A rival schools against each other, but yet there's 30,000 people in each town. I mean, you have that feel. So, and again, he's waiting. We see these players, and if they're still playing and they're still doing this NBA combine and they're still, this guy's waiting. You want quality over quantity. And if it takes a few more weeks or a month to get 3 more 4-star, 5-stars, and you solidify, and again, how many more spots does he say he needs? 2 more?
I mean, he was in that 8 to 9, maybe possibly 10. We're at 7.
So 2 more, 2 to 3 more. I mean, he wants to make sure he's getting those guys because, again, you have 2 solid rotations. Look at South Carolina women's basketball, 2 solid rotations where they graduated and they got rid of their whole starting 5, come back and went undefeated and won another national championship. That just tells you where that program's at, not back to back, but they won a national championship. So, but I know we're running long, but it's interesting to see how the rest of this goes. We were going to have Cabo on this Monday, but we're going to have him on next week to preview regionals. We won't have a show on Thursday. We'll just come back to you on Monday. Got a birthday celebration going on Thursday. So 42. I'm way past the old head division now. So
hey, I got 37 coming up next week. So,
but that will, unless you got anything else.
No, just the final little tidbit is talking about the rotation, this, that, and the other. How calming would it be to not have to sit there and say, where's this player? Why isn't this player playing? When you only have 8, 9, maybe 10 guys versus 15 and having to question, the playing time of every single bench player.
Well, or hey, one goes down to injury. We know we got another 5-star right behind him. Man, how many? Yes, we're running long, but let's go a little bit longer. Because I know we're just going down this rabbit hole, but it's a good conversation of, look, how many what ifs have we had? Man, what if Mason Jones would have come back to this season? Well, if you have 2 solid rotations, you kind of alleviate that whole what if, when you know if this guy goes down to an injury and you have another guy that comes back right behind him and produces, or you've got 10 solid guys that are giving you 5, 10, 15 points every game, and you're averaging 90 points a game. You don't have to worry about those what ifs. They are going to be, this is what happens when you put it all together.
Mm-hmm. And the quick thing, as I saw today, I guess the final rankings from 24/7 came out for the different position players at a high school. And, seeing 2 Arkansas recruits, 2 Arkansas signees, 2 guys that we're going to see on the court this coming season be in the top 10 at the small forward position. That's one of those things that it's crazy to see, but that's where we're at now. If one guy's having an off game, you've got another guy sitting and waiting for his moment. You've got guys that you're going to have multiple first-round draft picks on the same roster at different points in time. And that's what Cal brings to the table.
Well, that will do it for this episode of the Hawg Talk podcast, brought to you by Sterling Soap and Roastery, Bet Online, Autograph, and Arkansas Brewing Company, part of the Believe and Buzz Radio networks. We will catch you next month. Well, hold on. Not next Monday, Memorial Day. So we'll come back to you, and everybody enjoy your Memorial Day weekend, the official start to the summer. We'll come back to you next Tuesday, live from the Sterling Soap and Roastery studios.